So are you the hot commodity here in the Philippines? So as many of you who live in the West know, to be considered a hot commodity, you either have to look like Brad Pitt or be as rich as Bill Gates. Yes, as you know, I'm exaggerating, but you know how the dating market sucks in the West. If you have lived there or are living there, you understand. So how is the market here in the East, especially the Philippines? Well, the good news is that in the Philippines, if you have a pension of, let's say, $1,500 to $2,000, you are the hot commodity. Let's get into it. So welcome to another episode of Pa, but not Grandpa, Paul's Asian Adventure. As the intro said, we are talking about if and why you are the hot commodity in the Philippines, and not the 25-year-old female with the killer looks and the killer body, even if you're on an income of less than $2,000 US. Remember, when you meet a Filipina, she is probably making less than $300 a month. And that is if, and I mean if, she is working. The unemployment levels for unskilled labor in the Philippines is very high. You might think $1,500 to $2,000 is very little, but it's enough to live an okay lifestyle here. By that I mean a small house, aircon, good food, and transportation. Now for us coming from the West, this is nothing special. However, for a Filipina who has lived in poverty her whole life, and by poverty I mean living like in a bamboo house, barely enough money for food, barely enough money for used clothes, and so on. Having a place, like I mentioned, with aircon, internet, a nice TV, and streaming movies, it's a big thing. Actually, it's a very big thing. So it takes a lot to make these videos. So if you would, please subscribe if you're watching this, as it really helps me. Subscribe, like, and share. The other aspect of why you are the hot commodity in the Philippines is the social status. Believe it or not, when a Filipina is dating a foreigner, her social status in most cases go up. There are exceptions if the age gap is too large, or if you are a raging alcoholic with the looks thereafter. But if you're one of those, I'm assuming you're not watching this video anyway. Other falsehoods I hear sometimes is that want the Filipina pick the guy bringing in $7,000 versus the guy making $7,000 living in a mansion versus the guy bringing in $2,000 living in a two-bedroom home. Well, not necessarily. As most Filipinas don't understand money that way. Remember, they are making $300 to $400 a month if they are lucky. So as long as you can provide them security of a home and food, they will be extremely happy. Besides looking for security and an improvement in their lifestyles, most Filipinas are looking for a guy who can commit, and that is fun to be with. I can't emphasize this enough. Filipinas love having fun. Remember the Cyndi Lauper song, Girls Just Wanna Have Fun? Well, just take out girls and put Filipina in there, it becomes Filipinas Just Wanna Have Fun. Remember this, and you are golden. Golden, I tell you. So things are actually very good for dating in the Philippines. But there are negatives that are growing each month that passes. That, of course, is that the competition is heating up. And this is due to two factors. Factor one is the availability of cheap cell phones. And factor two is cheap internet here in the Philippines. This basically means that these girls no longer have to go to internet cafes. They can basically chat with multiple guys from the West, from the comfort of their homes. Some, of course, will inevitably start playing games with the Westerners and extract resources from them. They use those magic words, I love you, and other endearment words such as baby, darling, and so on. This is, of course, to make you fall for their games. And many weak men will fall gaga for them. So please, 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 don't be that man. Don't send money. Don't waste your precious time chatting with a girl that you will not see for months or maybe even years. If you want to chat with a girl, do it max, and I mean max, 2 months before heading out. And don't, whatever you do, put all your eggs in one basket. Use your time to set up multiple meets. Anyone coming up with a sob story of why they need money, just next them. That's simple. Another thing to mention is that Southeast Asia is getting more wealthy. So in the decades to come, we will see a radical increase in the wealth created in the East, assuming that these political systems hold up, that is. And this, of course, will impact the dating dynamics here in Southeast Asia. It will basically make it worse for expats. So for the last part of this PA episode, I wanted to talk to you about what can happen if you take your fiancé/wife to the West. And remember, this is what can happen. It does not always happen. And I will give you some examples of people I've spoken to and things I've seen in the West. So I will talk about other people that I knew in the States that brought a Filipina over. So please remember this. Once you take an average girl from the Philippines in her 20s or 30s and move her to the West, she then becomes the hot commodity. She is the young, hot, feminine girl with the killer looks and the killer body that all the younger guys will put the moves on. She is the one other girls will say, "What are you doing with that old man? You can do so much better," and so on. And this is the part you have to be very aware of. No matter what the girl says about moving to the West, please remember, people change, social dynamics change, and the sexual dynamics change when moving to a new culture such as the West. And no one, not even the girl you're with, who might actually have very good intentions, even she will not understand the dynamics that can happen and how she can change as a person. Most people don't understand their own psychology, let alone a poor province girl from the Philippines. The question you have to ask yourself is, how strong is she? Can she resist all the moves that the guys will put on her? Will she cope with being laughed at for an age gap relationship? Remember, in the Philippines, age gap relationships are accepted. In the West, age gap relationships are not accepted, and the social pressure on the girl can be quite strong. So ask yourself, how long will it be before she gives in to one of those younger guys? How long will she be able to put up with the social pressure? Once you take her to the West, your girl no longer has competition anxiety of losing you, as she did in the Philippines. She is the hot one, not you. It is now you who are scared of losing her. So a long time ago, when I lived in Houston, I was chatting with a Filipina. This was about 2006, 2007. We had chatted for hours and knew each other for months. At the time, I was single, chatting with multiple girls in the Philippines. Anyway, she seemed very feminine, traditional, and very nice. But I found someone that I liked more, and basically told her that, and she moved on. She of course moved on to another guy, and before I knew it, she had actually moved from the Philippines to Houston to be with her fiancé/husband-to-be. As mentioned at the time, I did live in Houston, actually not so far away from her. I met up with both of them for coffee, and the guy was super nice, a very nice guy. Maybe too nice. You know what they say, you gotta be a bit mean to keep them keen. Anyway, the age gap between them, if I remember correctly, was less than 10 years. He was also a hard-working guy and worked hard to provide for her and their 2 kids that they eventually had. Many years later, out of the blue, she contacted me. At the time, I was single. She was at that point, if I remember correctly, separated from her husband. She was out partying while the guy was at home taking care of their kids. A year later, she visited me in Dallas. I'd moved to Dallas at the time. And there I found out that she divorced the guy from Houston, given up on the kids, and let's just say had become a party girl. A year or so after that, she contacted me again, and I found out she was engaged to a new guy. Now, this is a girl who seemed very feminine and traditional. However, the social constraints that existed in the Philippines were lifted and her true nature came out. So as you can see, a small age gap is not conducive of people staying together when the relationship dynamics kick in and hypergamy rears its ugly head. You might be her best choice in the Philippines. However, in the West, the dynamics completely change, and the chance of these relationships ending badly increases dramatically. However, another guy I knew has a 40-year age gap with his Filipina. They have now been married for over 15 years. No kids, as both didn't want kids. How did he manage this? Very simply, he told her the following before she got to the US. There will never be a time where you work. There will never be a time where you will be going out with a girls' night out. He was also very selective about the couples he hung out with. So basically, he set the boundaries and followed through. He also had plans in place to protect his assets in case things didn't work out. The other thing is that they have a lot of fun together. Remember, girls always want to have fun. Filipinos want to have fun. They're always traveling. They're always traveling the world, cooking for friends, going on hikes, and so on. They thoroughly enjoy their lives together. And when I see them together, I see genuine, true love from both of them. To be honest, most of the relationships I saw between Filipinas and Americans in the US were terrible. I would absolutely not recommend taking your Filipina to the West. Now, of course, there are exceptions to the rule. Now, no matter what you do, please, for the love of God, make sure you have a prenup, and if possible, a postnup when you get to the US or another Western country. Make sure you talk to a lawyer before you go to the step of marrying again, especially if you are taking her to the West. So with that, I want to thank you all for watching, and those who made it to the end, thank you so much. If you made it to the end, don't forget, subscribe, like, and sharing is great. Sharing my videos is the best. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.